Hey everybody, Fatbird Finds here. I'm Laura and Mary Beth is about to join me. She is doing the tech work. We're going to try to go live today and shoot the podcast live on YouTube. If you're listening only on podcast, we do have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to if you like, and we are trying out doing this podcast live on the YouTube channel today. So that's something different for us. So we're excited about it. Fatbird Flockers, that's what we call our members. If you're joining us, bear with us. We are going to just kind of go right on as regular with the podcast, and we'll check our phone when we can for like some, comments from the crowd or whatever.
Right. So we didn't have this podcast pre-scheduled, and we were about to record it for today. I was like, Laura, let's just do it live.
Let's just do it.
Let's just see what happens. And
Look
she
at
said,
you being spontaneous.
All right. Okay. So while Laura's reading, I'll watch for comments. While I'm reading, Laura will watch for comments. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Oh,
sorry.
you're going to have to turn that down.
Yep. Okay.
Hey, everybody. Karen and Carrie are here. That's exciting.
Silent mode is on.
Live studio audience. That's right.
Right? Carrie, we expect some, commenting from you.
Who wants to start?
I can start if you want, but I think you should kind of recap where we are.
Well, I don't remember.
Well, just basically, really briefly, if you guys will have to catch up if you haven't been reading along with us, but basically we are to the point where he has created his creation.
Right.
Okay. And
he hasn't done it yet though, has he? Or did he?
Yeah, remember at the end? I think that we're getting ready for a very exciting chapter. If you haven't joined us, and I think we're probably going to do 5 and 6 because see, they're short.
Okay.
Hang on.
I trust you.
Okay.
That's 6.
Yeah, I've got you. I got you. Right here.
I'm reading it.
You can read it. Okay. So, but see, at the end of 4, I promised myself both of these when my creation should be complete. Okay. So
he's about to do it. Or
Yes.
did he do it? I think he's about to do it.
Yes. Yeah. He's right up to the point. We're picking up right when it happens.
It's happening.
It's happening.
There's a lot happening here. All right, you ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so your job is to watch comments.
My phone is spinning. Okay. So I'm probably
here. You can use mine.
Look at yours.
That's fine.
I'll turn mine off. How's that?
It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet.
Yikes.
Uh-oh. It was already 1 a.m. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs.
Ooh.
It's getting good.
I told you we were right here at the point of it happening.
It's getting good. How can I describe my emotions at this catastrophe? Or how the wretch whom in this infinite pain and care I had endeavored to form? His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful, great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of lustrous black and flowing. His teeth of pearly whiteness. But these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, that seemed almost of the same color as the dun white sockets in which they were set, his shriveled complexion and straight black lips.
Yikes.
So he tried to make him beautiful.
And I think he was, to me, I think he was pleased with it until it happened, until he really succeeded. I think he thought that he was doing something really great while it was happening, while he was putting it together.
Yeah.
Like he thought it was going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes. The different accidents of life are not so changeable as the feelings of human nature. I'd worked hard for nearly 2 years for the sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body. For this I had deprived myself of rest and health. I had desired it with an ardor of far exceeded moderation. But now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished.
Ardor is one of our words.
Yeah. Ardor
That's
and
the drinking game.
countenance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ardor and countenance.
Yeah. If you hear those words, you have to take a drink. It's early, though.
I
So
know.
have a drink of your water or tea or whatever you're having.
You can go back and, replay the podcast while
At
you're
night.
drinking some night.
There you go. But now that I had vanished, the beauty of the dream... But now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. Unable to endure the aspect of the being I had created, I rushed out of the room and continued a long time traversing my bedchamber, unable to compose my mind to sleep. Well, how could he sleep? He's got this dude that he just made that's opened its eyes. Does he expect that he's going to be sleeping?
Right? And it's kind of like, it's kind of like having like this horrific animal or something like caged up, and then all of a sudden you've opened the cage and you're immediately terrified of it and you run off. And it's just left to its own devices.
It's like he wants to go to bed and just pretend that it didn't happen.
Yeah. I don't know how he immediately knows. It's like the Garden of Eden or something. He immediately knows that he's done something awful.
Yeah. Yikes.
Carrie wants to know, whose teeth do we think that those pearly whites were?
Great question, Carrie. At length, lassitude succeeded to the tumult that I had before endured, and I threw myself on the bed in my clothes, endeavoring to seek a few moments of forgetfulness. But it was in vain. I slept indeed, but I was disturbed by the wildest dreams. I bet.
Oh, God. I bet.
How can he sleep? He's got this dude in the house.
What's he doing down there?
Is he just like laying down there, like tethered to a bed or something?
That's terrifying. I would have.
Dude.
Why didn't he go screaming from the house?
I don't know. But it was in vain. I slept indeed, but I was disturbed by the wildest dreams. I thought I saw Elizabeth in the bloom of health walking in the streets of Ingolstadt. Is that what the word is?
That's the school, yeah.
Ingolstadt. Delighted and surprised, I embraced her. But as I imprinted the first kiss on her lips, they became livid with the hue of death. Her features appeared to change.
Livid?
What? Yeah.
Oh.
They became livid with the hue of death.
It's quite a description.
And her features appeared to change. And I thought that I held the corpse of my dead mother in my arms.
Oh, no.
A shroud enveloped her form, and I saw the grave worms crawling in the folds of flannel.
Ew.
I started from my sleep with horror. A cold dew covered my forehead. My teeth chattered, and every limb became convulsed. When, by the dim and yellow light of the moon, as it forced its way through the window shutters, I beheld the wretch, the miserable monster whom I had created. He held up the curtain of my bed, and
he's in his room.
He held up the curtain of my bed, and his eyes, if eyes they may be called, were fixed on me. First of all, that's the most horrendous image. Like, to be in your bed and you like wake up and there's somebody like hovering over you. Wouldn't that be the worst?
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's scary. That's so scary.
It's his own damn fault. What did he think? He can't just go to bed when there's a dude that he just made, like in the basement or the attic or whatever.
Carrie said, "Who you fighting, Frankenstein?"
Right? What did he expect? His jaws opened, and he muttered some inarticulate sounds while a grin wrinkled his cheeks.
Ugh.
He might have spoken, but I did not hear. One hand was stretched out, seeming to detain me, but I escaped and rushed downstairs.
Yeah, I don't think he's all quite about himself yet.
Do
this
you think?
monster.
I took refuge in the courtyard belonging to the house which I inhabited, where I remained during the rest of the night, walking up and down in the greatest agitation.
In the barn?
Well, he's like in this court. He took refuge in the courthouse belonging to the house.
Oh, okay.
The courtyard
Yeah.
belonging to the house which I inhabited, walking up and down in the greatest agitation.
Well, yeah,
I bet.
He's just waiting for him to pop out somewhere.
Listening attentively, catching and fearing each sound as if it were to announce the approach of the demoniacal corpse to which I had so miserably given life.
Oh, my God.
I just don't have much sympathy for him.
Well, why not?
Well, what did he think was going to happen? Did he think he was just going to make this dude and the dude was going to be like, oh, cheerio. What's up? Thanks for making me. Let's be friends. It's not a good idea.
I think that's the moral of the story, right?
It's a terrible idea.
It's a terrible idea. Now, can we talk for a second since we stopped?
Yeah.
I think that his dream is the foreshadowing of what's going to happen.
Oh, no.
I don't think that good things are going to happen to Elizabeth.
Spoiler alert.
You know, I think everybody knows.
I mean, this book is only, 200 years old.
But, I mean, I think it's cool the way, some of her writing is really cool because, she starts foreshadowing already.
Tone TTK. All right. Oh, no mortal could support the horror of that countenance.
Countenance.
Drink. A mummy, again, endued with animation, could not be so hideous as that wretch. I had gazed on him while unfinished. He was ugly then. But when those muscles and joints were rendered capable of motion, it became a thing as even Dante could not have conceived.
Yikes.
Seven
hells, man.
7 hells. I passed the night wretchedly. How? How did he even? I would have just gone to the bar. I'd left. I would have packed up a little knapsack of things that I needed and just left. I'd have hit the bar and left town. I'd be like, I'm done. Peace out.
I mean, he knows it's his fault. I can't imagine just hanging around to see. I don't know. Maybe he's just was not at himself at all.
No. I passed the night wretchedly. Sometimes my pulse beat so quickly and hardly that I felt the palpitation of every artery. At others, I nearly sank to the ground through languor and extreme weakness. Mingled with this horror, I felt the bitterness of disappointment. Dreams that had been my food and pleasant rest for such a long space were now become a hell to me. And the change was so rapid, the overthrow so complete. So he's just lost himself. He's done.
This is it.
He's toast.
But I just don't know how. I guess he just scared the shit out of himself, right? With this monster. Because, just all of a sudden, one day it was a great idea and the next day it was wretched.
Morning, dismal and wet, at length dawned and discovered to my sleepless and aching eyes the church of Ingolstadt, its white steeple and clock, which indicated the 6th hour. The porter opened the gates of the court, which had that night been my asylum, and I issued into the streets, pacing them with quick steps, as if I sought to avoid the wretch whom I feared every turning of the street would present to my view.
I bet.
I did not dare return to the apartment which I inhabited, but felt impelled to hurry on, although drenched by the rain which poured from a black and comfortless sky. Yeah, he didn't want to go back there. I wouldn't either, dude. Victor.
Look at all this dark language that she's using. The day is dark. It's raining. It's raining. It's dismal. It's cold.
It's a bad day.
But the church, you notice, was just this one bright white spot. I think that's pretty awesome.
Go ahead.
Well, it was in a little courtyard and church and stuff touch not the cat.
Right. I continued walking in this manner for some time, endeavoring my bodily exercise to ease the load which weighed upon my mind. I traversed the streets without any clear conception of where I was or what I was doing. My heart palpitated in the sickness of fear, and I hurried on with irregular steps, not daring to look about me.
Katie says, Tone TTK, Katie.
Yeah.
Says, I kind of felt that way about my ex.
Okay, so this part is inset. It's like the margins are in, and it's written kind of like a poem. Like one on a lonesome road, who doth walk in fear and dread, and having once turned around, walks on, and turns no more his head, because he knows a frightful fiend doth close behind him tread. And it has an asterisk beside it. I don't know what that means. Oh, the asterisk down here.
It's probably written by someone.
Yeah. Coleridge, is that what that says?
Coleridge.
Coleridge, Ancient Mariner. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the poem. I'm going to read it again. Like one on a lonesome road, who doth walk in fear and dread, and having once turned round, walks on, and turns no more his head, because he knows a frightful fiend does close behind him tread. Yikes.
Yeah,
that's a great poem.
Yeah, and just like you said, I mean, he just knows that. And I mean, I think it also means in a broader sense, he's looking over his shoulder to see if the monster's coming after him. But I think for the rest of his life, he'll be looking over his shoulder to see. All the stuff that the calamity that he's causing.
Oh, the calamity.
The calamity or catastrophe, maybe.
Yeah. Continuing thus, I came at length opposite to the inn in which the various diligences and carriages usually stopped. Here I paused. I knew not why, but I remained some minutes with my eyes fixed on a coach that was coming toward me from the other end of the street. As it drew nearer, I observed it was the Swiss diligence. It stopped just where I was standing, and on the door being opened, I perceived Henry Clerval, who, on seeing me, instantly sprung out. "My dear Frankenstein," exclaimed he, "how glad I am to see you. How fortunate that you should be here at the very moment of my alighting."
Oh, Henry.
Henry's just like...
Wow. Talk about some excellent timing on Henry's part, right?
Oh, and he's just there. How fortunate that you should be here at the very moment of my alighting. I'm going to start saying that. Alighting.
Alighting. I have alighted at your house.
Yeah. Nothing could equal my delight on seeing Clerval. His presence brought back to me my thoughts of father, Elizabeth, and all those scenes of home so dear to my recollection. I grasped his hand, and in a moment forgot my horror and misfortune. I felt suddenly, and for the first time during many months, calm and sincere joy. I welcomed my friend, therefore, in the most cordial manner, and we walked towards my college.
He loves his friend.
So he's forgotten for just like a brief second what's happening here.
Yeah, he's just, I'm sure. Can't you imagine? You'd be so relieved. Like, to the rescue. Like, can you imagine you've just created this monster and I show up, I alight in your town and you haven't seen me in a year?
Yeah, that'd be great. Although I think I would immediately
that'd be great.
I think I would immediately be like, "Laura, I'm really happy to see you, but I've done something."
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, you'd be like, "Oh God,
you're gonna kill me," but I've done this. Clerval continued talking for some time about our mutual friends and his own good fortune in being permitted to come to Ingolstadt. "You may easily believe," he said, "how great was the difficulty to persuade my father that all necessary knowledge was not comprised in the noble art of bookkeeping. And indeed, I believe I left him incredulous to the last, for his varied entreaties was the same as without Greek. I eat heartily without Greek." What does that mean? "I have 10,000 florins a year without Greek. I eat heartily without Greek." I don't know what that means.
I don't know without Greek. Does anybody know what that means, without Greek means?
But his affection for me at length overcame his dislike of learning, and he has permitted me to undertake a voyage of discovery to the land of knowledge. So he's just like talking up a storm, man. He's telling Frankenstein all about his business.
Who? Oh, Henry.
Yeah. It gives me the greatest delight to see you, but tell me how you left my father, brothers, and Elizabeth. Very well and very happy. Only a little uneasy that they hear from you so seldom. By the by, I mean to lecture you a little upon their account myself, but my dear Frankenstein, continued he, stopping short and gazing full in my face, I did not before remark how very ill you appear, so thin and pale, and look as if you have been watching for several nights. Yeah, he's like, you look like shit.
You look terrible, man.
You have guessed right. I have been lately so deeply engaged in one occupation that I have not allowed myself sufficient rest. As you see, but I sincerely hope, that all these employments are now at an end, and that I am at length free. What's he think's gonna happen? Do you think that this dude is just gonna, like, leave? And it's all gonna be fine?
I know. I mean, he doesn't have any idea where he's at.
I would be more concerned.
Yes.
I think I would tell somebody.
You just need to be concerned for your common man. Right?
I think I would just, like, take you by the hand and be like, I have to show you something.
I'm just picturing that.
I trembled excessively. I could not endure to think of, and far less to allude to, the occurrences of the preceding night. He's embarrassed.
Heather says, hey, Victor, bro, you could use a nice cucumber mask. You look terrible.
I walked with a quick pace, and we soon arrived at my college. I then reflected, and the thought made me shiver, that the creature whom I had left at my apartment might still be there, alive and walking about.
It's a healthy fear.
You think? What else is he gonna do? I mean, you pretty much just have, like, a gorilla in your apartment. He's huge.
Yeah.
He's huge. He's kind of grumpy. And he's like a wild animal. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not going to go home if there's a gorilla in my house. I would leave the country. I dreaded to behold this monster, but I feared still more than Henry should see him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so he's like, man, I wish that this monster would just hide under the bed for a minute so I can bring Henry over.
He's embarrassed of what he's done, right? I mean, he's ashamed.
Entreating him, therefore, to remain a few minutes at the bottom of the stairs, I darted up toward my own room. My hands were already on the lock of the door before I recollected myself. Then I paused. A cold shivering came over me. I threw the door forcibly open, as children are accustomed to do when they expect a specter to stand in waiting for them on the other side. But nothing appeared. I stepped fearfully in.
Can you imagine just opening that door for the first time?
The apartment was empty, and my bedroom was also freed from its hideous guest. I could hardly believe that so great a good fortune could have befallen me. But when I became assured that my enemy had indeed fled, I clapped my hands for joy and ran down to Clerval. He's like, yes. Ding dong, the witch is dead, or he's left at least. It's not my problem anymore.
He's just so happy he doesn't have to fess up to Henry.
He doesn't want to tell Henry what he's done. And also, this dude could be anywhere. And he's just like,
thank God he's out to terrorize someone else.
Not my problem anymore.
Yeah.
Dude, you talking about, like, no responsibility. Be responsible. Okay, so just a disclaimer out there. If you guys are going to make monsters in your basement or your attic or your storeroom or your put-out closet, you take some responsibility for that. Tell your friends what you've done. Don't let it just wander about the streets. It's going to kill somebody.
You know, I think we are about to get into, I mean, what chapter? Oh, yeah. We're probably just about halfway, if that. So I think there's going to be a lot of reckoning with the monster or the creature. Because, I mean, who knows if he's really a monster, right?
Yeah.
Like, now he's created this supposedly sentient being. I mean, like, does he have feelings? Is he going to hurt his feelings? Is the monster going to be upset,
right,
that he's been created in this with this hideous image, and that everybody's going to think he's a monster?
Yeah. So I mean, not only is it dangerous, that this dude is just out running around, but also there's like a morality to it that you're going to hurt his feelings. You just left him there. Come on, Victor.
Katie said maybe he went to an Airbnb.
We ascended into my room, and the servant presently brought breakfast, but I was unable to contain myself. It was not joy only that possessed me, but I felt my flesh tingle with excess of sensitiveness, and my pulse beat rapidly. I was unable to remain for a single instant in the same place. I jumped over the chairs, clapped my hands, and laughed aloud. Clerval first attributed my unusual spirit to joy on his arrival, but when he observed me more attentively, he saw a wildness in my eyes for which he could not account, and my loud, unrestrained, heartless laughter frightened and astonished him. He's like, dude, you're crazy.
So poor Henry's tripping out. He's like, wait, whoa. Okay, what the hell is going on?
He's like, you are on some speed or something.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to lay off the cocaine, Victor. He probably thinks he's on drugs.
Probably so.
My dear Victor, cried he, what for God's sake is the matter?
Oh, there we go.
Do
There we
not
go, Henry.
laugh in that manner. How ill are you? What is the cause of all this? That's what I'm saying. Henry and I think we would get along. So if you were doing that, if you looked sick and pale and like you hadn't slept or eaten in weeks, and then all of a sudden you're clapping around and jumping over tables and chairs and clapping and laughing like really weird, I'm gonna be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Get it together. Do not ask me, cried I, putting my hands before my eyes, for I thought I saw the dreaded specter glide into the room.
Oh, no.
He can tell. Oh, save me, save me. I imagined that the monster seized me. I struggled furiously and fell down in a fit. So he's like having some sort of...
Fell down in a fit.
Yeah, he's having like a really intense like fit. Poor Clerval.
What is a fit, though?
Well, like a kind of like a seizure or a religious experience or something. Like
Really?
I'm imagining, like
I mean,
you know, like when you see
like
on
he's
TV,
physically like,
you know,
that?
when you see it on TV, like in movies, when people have like a major religious experience and they're like just convulsing on the ground. That's
Oh.
what I'm picturing.
wow, that's intense.
Poor Clerval. What must have been his feelings?
Oh, is Victor saying this?
No, well, he's thinking
Okay.
it. He's not saying it out loud.
Oh, okay.
A meeting which he anticipated with such joy, so strangely turned into bitterness. But I was not the witness of his grief, for I was lifeless and did not recover my senses for a long, long time.
Wow.
Has he passed
I mean,
out?
did he pass out?
This
Get the
was
smelling salts.
This was the commencement of a nervous fever, which confined me for several months. Oh, God. So he's like, so he's been in this fit for a long time trying to make this monster. He's been obsessive. He hasn't eaten. He hasn't talked to his family. He makes the monster. He's terrified. He runs away, paces in the streets, meets his friend, brings his friend back to his house, horrified that his friend is going to see this monster, goes into his room. He's like, it's not here.
What luck.
And then he goes into like this manic episode, has some sort of fit, and now he's out. He's just done.
Poor Henry.
Yeah.
What is Henry to think
Yeah.
about all this? He has no backstory to any of this.
Henry's like, you're either drugs majorly or something's advanced age and unfitness for so long a journey, and how wretched my sickness would make Elizabeth. He spared them this grief by concealing the extent of my disorder. He knew that I could not have a more kind and attentive nurse than himself, and firm in the hope he felt of my recovery, he did not doubt that, instead of doing harm, he performed the kindest action that he could towards them. So he's happy that he didn't tell the family.
Yes.
He's saying that was the nicest thing that he could have done. It's
Yeah,
not tell them
Henry.
the extent of it.
Poor Henry kept all that to himself. He's like, oh, they're never going to survive this.
What a good friend.
They're never going to survive this.
He comes in, he sees this dude like have this weird situation. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to take care of you for months. What a great friend.
Sounds like they're very close.
They're really close. Yeah.
Except I think if you were very close, why wouldn't you like consult your friend? I can see why maybe he wouldn't consult Elizabeth, but I mean, do you think you might run it past somebody?
Yeah.
If you were going to like reanimate some dead body?
But I was in reality very ill, and surely nothing but the unbounded and unremitting attention of my friend could have restored me to life. The form of the monster on whom I had bestowed existence was forever before my eyes, and I raved incessantly concerning him. Doubtless my words surprised Henry. He at first believed them to be the wanderings of my disturbed imagination.
I bet. He's having, fever dreams or whatever.
But the pertinency with which I continually recurred to the same subject persuaded him that my disorder indeed owed its origin to some uncommon and terrible event. So Henry's like, something's happening here,
Something's
Victor.
up.
I don't know, Victor. By very slow degrees, and with frequent relapses that alarmed and grieved my friend, I recovered. I remember the first time I became capable of observing outward objects with any kind of pleasure. I perceived that the fallen leaves had disappeared, and that the young buds were shooting forth from the trees that shaded my window. It was a divine spring, and the season contributed greatly to my convalescence.
Holy smokes. Do you mean to tell me that, okay, that was in November when he created the creature.
Yeah.
And it's spring.
Yeah. So, monster, we need to name the monster.
It's a creature. We don't know if he's a monster yet.
Put in the comment section what you think we should name the monster.
Yeah, the monster's not Frankenstein. He needs a name.
The monster, I don't believe is ever named. So I need something to call him.
We've got some really good people in the chat. There's about 20 people. I bet they could come up with a good name.
Great. Yeah. Let us know what we should call him.
But anyway, yeah. He's just wandering around.
The monster.
Yeah.
He's just doing around. I felt also sentiments of joy and affection revive in my bosom. My gloom disappeared, and in a short time I became as cheerful as before I was attacked by this fatal passion. He's back to normal.
I guess he thinks that the creature just slunk off somewhere and died.
Maybe.
I mean, I guess it's plausible. I mean, I guess you could think that maybe that only sparked him for a minute and that he would just go ahead and die.
I don't have that about me. If I had done something that I knew was really something, I don't think I could just be like, I'm as cheerful now as before I got obsessed with this.
Yeah.
I would think about it every second of every day and just like, I wouldn't be able to stop.
Yeah. I know that about you. That's for sure. There's no way you could do that.
Dearest Clerval, exclaimed I, how kind, how very good you are to me. This whole winter, instead of being spent in study, as you promised yourself, has been consumed in my sick room. How shall I ever repay you?
Right?
I feel the greatest remorse for the disappointment of which I have been the occasion, but will you forgive me? You will repay me entirely if you do not discompose yourself, but get well as fast as you can. And since you appear in such good spirits, I may speak to you on one subject, may I not?
Here we go. Got to talk to you about something, man.
This is an intervention.
Now that you're a little better.
I trembled. One subject. What could it be? What could it be? Really, Victor? I mean, he's not going to ask you, like, what could it be? Could he allude to an object on whom I dared not even think? Compose yourself, said Clerval, who observed my change of color. I will not mention it if it agitates you, but your father and cousin would be very happy if they received a letter from you in your own handwriting. They hardly know how ill you have been, and are uneasy at your long silence. Is that all, my dear Henry? How could you suppose that my first thought would not fly toward those dear, dear friends whom I love, and who you are so deserving of my love? If this is your present temper, my friend, you will perhaps be glad to see a letter that has been lying here for some days for you. It is from your cousin, I believe. End of chapter.
Yeah, so you remember those people that are so crazy about you back there in your idyllic home, Victor? And not to mention the fact that he left at the death of his mother, so they've all been bereft with grief and without him, and now he's just gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be the same almost. I mean, I can't imagine. Just in our society today, there's no way we can imagine with cell phones and all that just going months and months and months without hearing from someone.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Are we going to read one more?
Yes.
Okay, it's your turn.
Okay. I think we have a couple of name suggestions, but not.
Oh, good.
We've got two, I think. We've
got Clyde, Mr. Peast, Peace Out. Syphilis is the one that affects the brain.
Yeah, Carrie had said something about he had some sort of disease that.
Retsnom. That's monster backwards.
Hey, that's cool. Okay. Chapter 6.
Hey, Jody Renshaw.
You go ahead. I'm just going to. Clerval then put the following letter into my hands. It was from my own Elizabeth. So here we go. I mean, poor Elizabeth, right?
Yeah. Is Elizabeth his cousin?
Yeah, they
I
call.
I thought Elizabeth was his sister.
No, they call each other cousin. Remember, Elizabeth was adopted into the family, and they're supposed to be married.
Yeah. Okay.
So they call each other cousin because they're not really brother and sister.
I gotcha.
And back then it was okay to marry your cousin. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
My dearest cousin, you have been ill, very ill, and even the constant letters of dear kind Henry are not sufficient to reassure me on your account. You are forbidden to write, to hold a pen, yet one word from you, dear Victor, is necessary to calm our apprehensions. For a long time I have thought that each post would bring this line, and my persuasions have restrained my uncle from undertaking a journey to Ingolstadt. I have prevented his encountering the inconveniences and perhaps dangers of so long a journey, yet how often have I regretted not being able to perform it myself. So they're wanting to come after him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been months. I figure to myself that the task...
Well, not only has it been all winter, but he wasn't talking to them before either.
Yeah, because he was consumed by all this experimentation.
It's probably been like years. It's probably been like 2 years.
Oh, my God. I figure to myself that the task of attending on your sick bed has devolved on some mercenary old nurse who could never guess your wishes, nor minister to them with the care and affection of your poor cousin. Yet that is over now. Clerval writes that, indeed, you are getting better. I eagerly hope that you will confirm this intelligence soon in your own handwriting. Get well and return to us. You will find a happy, cheerful home and friends who love you dearly. Your father's health is vigorous, and he asks but to see you. He asks but to see you, but to be assured that you are well, and not a care will ever cloud his benevolent countenance. How pleased you would be to remark the improvement of our Ernest. He is now 16 and full of activity and spirit. He is desirous to be a true Swiss and to enter into foreign service, but we cannot part with him, at least not until his elder brother return to us. My uncle is not pleased with the idea of a military career in a distant country, but Ernest never had your powers of application. So she's talking about the younger brother.
Yeah.
He looks upon study as an odious fetter. His time is spent in the open air, climbing the hills or rowing on the lake. I fear that he will become an idler unless we yield the point and permit him to enter on the profession which he has selected. Little alteration, except the growth of our dear children, has taken place since you left us. The blue lake and snow-clad mountains, they never change, and I think our placid home and our Contented hearts are regulated by the same immutable laws. So, I mean, it's such a contrast, right? His home is so serene and beautiful. And he's living in this terrible time and amuse me. And I am rewarded for any exertions by seeing none but happy, kind faces around me. Since you left us, but one change has taken place in our little household. Do you remember on what occasion Justine Moritz entered our family? Probably you do not. I will relate her history, therefore, in a few words. What do you think her idle occupations are?
Who's Justine?
Trifling occupations. So is that like sewing or needlepoint or?
I don't know, man. But who's Justine?
Well, we're about to meet Justine.
Oh,
I know. I mean, if you've got the movie version in your head, I think Justine is like a caretaker in the family. She's like takes care of the brother and just kind of a servant in the household.
Gotcha.
But the servants are treated very well, like almost like part of the family.
Okay.
So I think that's where we're going with this.
Like a house girl
yes.
or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay. I will relate her history, therefore, in a few words.
I wish I had a house girl. But I mean...
What? Never mind.
I
was going to say, what would you do with a house girl?
Well, I mean, like, she could, like, fix breakfast and clean the baseboards. And in return, I could, like, give her room and board. And she could just go do whatever she wanted. As long as she, like, fed me. That would be great.
That'd be great. Okay. I can't wait to see what people have to say about that.
Does anybody want that job? Does anybody want to just live here and fix my meals?
Are you scared to look? Is it Moritz?
Jenny Penny, this is a nice show.
Yeah. Hey, hold on a second. This is a nice show. Madame Moritz, her mother, was a widow with 4 children, of whom Justine was the third. This girl had always been the favorite of her father, but through a strange perversity, her mother could not endure her, and after the death of Mr. Moritz, treated her very ill. My aunt observed this, and when Justine was 12 years of age, prevailed on her mother to allow her to just live at our house. They've stolen another child. Like, this is how Elizabeth came to be at the house,
Well, they didn't steal the child.
I know. But, I mean, it just seems crazy, right?
Yeah.
The people are just handing over their kids left, right, and center. I guess because they live in this idyllic home. I think they're rich.
I guess it was hard times.
Yeah. The republican institutions of our country have produced simpler and happier manners than those which prevail in the great monarchies that surround it. Hence, there is less distinction between the several classes of its inhabitants, and the lower orders, being neither so poor nor so despised, their manners are more refined and moral. A servant in Geneva does not mean the same thing as a servant in France, in England. Justine, thus received in our family, learned the duties of a servant, a condition which, in our fortunate country, does not include the idea of ignorance and a sacrifice of the dignity of a human being. So, see, she's talking politics and stuff there, but, they live in Geneva, this idyllic place, where, there's no class. You look like you're up to something.
We have funny
there.
comments.
Oh, okay. So do you get my drift? Like, they've taken her in to be kind and benevolent, which is another probably drinking word in this book.
Right.
Yeah. They've taken her in, and I think they're trying to tell us she's in a good place. She's not like commanded like Cinderella to the ashes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a comment earlier when I was saying that I needed a house girl, and Angela said, "That's Nikki." And then, so Tone TTK said, "She could trifle around and do all the tech crap that you don't want to do, like editing. If I had a house girl, that's true." And then Vintage Velociraptor says,
and the trifle, what is it? Trifle occupations or whatever.
Vintage Velociraptor says, "Does trifling mean the same thing today as it did then?" Good question. I'm not sure. Wait.
Okay.
And then Tone TTK says, "I love Nikki and all her trifling." And then Vintage Velociraptor says, maybe she just lays around eating bonbons all day. That would be pretty trifling back then.
This is so great. What's the song that has trifling in it? You know this one?
Yeah, Carrie basically says that. The only place I ever hear the term trifling is in rap songs.
Yeah.
Like trifling hoes.
Right? Oh my gosh. Okay. So continuing on with Elizabeth's very long, loving letter here. Justine, you may remember, was a great favorite of yours, and I recollect you once remarked that if you were in an ill humor, one glance from Justine could dissipate it, for the same reason that Ariosto gives concerning the beauty of Angelica. She looked so frank-hearted and happy.
Frank-hearted?
Yeah, frank-hearted, right? So she's trying to, I guess Victor has met Justine before, but she's just assuming that he doesn't remember her. My aunt conceived a great attachment for her, by which she was induced to give her an education superior to that which she had at first intended. This benefit was fully repaid. Justine was the most grateful little creature in the world. I do not mean that she made any professions. I never heard one pass her lips, but you could see by her eyes that she almost adored her protectress. Although
protectress? I need a protectress.
Maybe that's what you need instead of a house girl.
Yeah.
Although her disposition was gay and in many respects inconsiderate, yet she paid the greatest attention to every gesture of my aunt. She thought her the model of all occupied in their own grief to notice poor Justine, who had attended her illness with the most anxious affection. Poor Justine was very ill, but other trials were reserved for her. One by one, her brothers and sister died, and her mother, with the exception of her neglected daughter, was left childless. The conscience of the woman was troubled. She began to think that the deaths of her favorites were a judgment from heaven to chastise her partiality.
So Justine wasn't her favorite. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's Justine. Justine was thinking that first she loses the aunt who's her protectress and her favorite person, and then she loses her brothers, her sister, and her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but that's Justine talking.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Well, she's just saying that she thinks that God is punishing her for some reason.
Gotcha.
That she's not acting right.
I'm with you.
She was a Roman Catholic, and I believe her confessor confirmed the idea that she had conceived. So she went to confession, and the priest was like, "Yes, my dear, I'm sorry." Accordingly, a few months after your departure for Ingolstadt, Justine was called home by her repentant mother. Poor girl, she wept when she quitted our house. She was much altered since the death of my aunt. Grief had given softness and a winning mildness to her manners, which had before been remarkable for vivacity. She was vivacious. Before. Nor was her residence at her mother's house of a nature to restore her gaiety. The poor woman was very vacillating in her repentance. She sometimes begged Justine to forgive her unkindness, but much oftener accused her of having caused the death of her brothers and sister. Oh. God. Perpetual fretting at length threw Madame Moritz into a decline, which at first increased her irritability, but she is now at peace forever. She died on the first approach of cold weather at the beginning of this last winter. She died at the first approach of cold weather, and at the beginning of this last winter, Justine has returned to us, and I assure you I love her tenderly. She's very clever and gentle and extremely pretty. As I mentioned before, her mien and her expressions continually remind me of my dear aunt.
Tone TTK says, Laura, don't say vacillating.
Right? So her poor old wretched mother died, and so now she's back with Elizabeth at the house.
Yeah.
I must say also a few words to you, my dear cousin, of little darling William. I wish you could see him. He is very tall of his age, with sweet laughing blue eyes, dark eyelashes, and curling hair. When he smiles, 2 little dimples appear on each cheek, which are rosy with health. He has already had 1 or 2 little wives?
Make sure you're talking into your mic and not away from it.
Oh, I'm sorry. William, are they talking about the brother? Yeah, she's talking about the brother, right?
I don't know. You don't have to be like right on top of it though.
Oh my gosh.
You can see the cover of the book really good when you're reading.
Oh, you can? Mm-hmm. Well, you can now if I turn around this way. I'm glad you said that, though. I don't need to be turned towards you. Let's see here. He has already had 1 or 2 little wives, but Louisa Byron is his favorite and a pretty little girl of 5 years of age. I don't really know what they're saying here.
Yeah.
He's had girlfriends?
I don't know, man.
Wives is in italics, so maybe that's just, I don't know what they said then. Now, dear Victor, I dare say you wish to be indulged in a little gossip concerning the good people of Geneva. The pretty Miss Mansfield has already received the congratulatory visits on her approaching marriage with a young Englishman, John Melbourne, Esquire. Her ugly sister, Manon, married Master Duviard, the rich banker, last autumn. Your favorite schoolfellow, Louis Manoir, has suffered misfortune since the departure of Clerval from Geneva, but he has already recovered his spirits and is reported to be on the point of marrying a very lively, pretty Frenchwoman, Madame Tavernier. She is a widow and much older than Manoir, but she is very much admired and a favorite with everybody. So
I'm glad you're having to read all those names.
I know, right? Ugh. Yuck. She's filling him in on all the detail, on all the gossip. She's spilling the tea. I have written myself into better spirits, dear cousin. Oh, she's cheered herself up with this letter. But my anxiety returns upon me as I conclude. Write, dearest Victor. 1 line, 1 word would be a blessing to us. 10,000 thanks to Henry for his kindness, his affection, and his many letters. We are sincerely grateful. Adieu, my cousin. Take care of yourself, and I entreat you to write. Elizabeth Lavenza, Geneva, March 18th, 1700 and something. They always put a little line, 1700. Oh my gosh.
What?
That was a lot.
Do you want me to do it?
No, you can if you want to, but that was a long letter.
Yeah.
And my hair is in my face at the moment. So maybe you should take up from there.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay, so I guess either Victor has read that for himself or Henry has just read it to Victor. I guess Victor read it for himself, right?
I think so,
okay.
Yeah. Dear, dear Elizabeth, I exclaimed. When I had read her letter, I will write instantly and relieve them from the anxiety they must feel. I wrote this exertion greatly fatigued me. But my convalescence had commenced and proceeded regularly, and in another fortnight I was able to leave my chamber. One of my first duties on my recovery was to introduce Clerval to the several professors of the university. Yeah, where does his professors think he's been?
Yeah, I don't think they had the same I don't think they had first and second period or whatever. I think they just studied with people for a while. I think they dropped in and out. I don't know.
Gotcha. In doing this, I underwent a kind of rough usage, ill-befitting the wounds that my mind had sustained. Ever since the fatal night, the end of my labors, and the beginning of my misfortunes, I had conceived a violent antipathy to the name of the natural philosophy. When I was otherwise quite restored to health, the sight of a chemical instrument would renew all the agony of my nervous symptoms. So he's got PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. Henry saw this and had removed all my apparatus from my view. He had also changed my apartment.
Henry's already picked up on that.
Yeah. He had also changed my apartment, for he perceived that I had acquired a dislike for the room, which had previously been my laboratory. But these cares of Clerval were made of no avail, and when I visited the professors, Master Waldman inflicted torture when he praised, with kindness and warmth, the astonishing progress I had made in the sciences. So he's like, oh, this guy's awesome. And Frank is like, oh, God. V. Frank is like, oh, God, that hurts.
Yeah.
He soon perceived that I disliked the subject, but not guessing the real cause. He attributed my feelings to modesty and changed the subject from my improvement to the science itself with a desire, as I evidently saw, of drawing me out.
Yes, how could he know?
What could I do? He meant to please, and he tormented me. Well, that's a thing. People do that often, unknowing. They'll go up and say something to somebody, and the person is just like, oh, God, stop talking to me about that.
If you only knew.
Yeah, if you only knew how I felt about that, don't do that. I felt as if he placed carefully, one by one, in my view, those instruments which were to be afterward used in putting me to a slow and cruel death.
Yikes.
I writhed under his word, yet dared not exhibit the pain I felt. Clerval, whose eyes and feelings, always quick in discerning the sensations of others, declined the subject, alleging in excuse his total ignorance, and the conversation took a more general turn. So Henry is really he can really tell what's going on.
Oh yeah,
he's very intuitive.
That would be me. I could tell immediately if you had created a monster in your life.
You think you would know?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't know what exactly it was, but I would know that something was tormenting you. Yes, I think.
I lost my place. Here we go. I thanked my friend from my heart.
I'm sorry, wait. Katie says, well, did they find fingers and stuff in his apartment?
Right? Great question.
Exactly.
I thanked my friend from my heart, but I did not speak. I saw plainly that he was surprised, but he never attempted to draw my secret from me. And although I loved him with a mixture of affection and reverence that knew no bounds, yet I could never persuade myself to confide to him that event which was so often present to my recollection, but which I feared the detail to another would only impress more deeply. Well, that's nice of Henry to not push, but I feel like I would push. I'll be like, Laura, what did you do? What happened?
What is going on?
I wouldn't let it go. I would be a bad friend.
I don't know. Is that a bad?
Well, I don't know. I would just be really pushy. I'd be like, you have... Master Crimp was not equally docile, and in my condition at that time of almost insupportive sensitiveness, his harsh, blunt, encomious... I don't know that word. His blunt...
Encomiums, but I don't know what that means.
Encomiums gave me even more pain than the benevolent approbation of Master Waldman. I don't know what that means either. It's like apostrophe D-N. Damn the fellow? Are they like
guess.
Are they like censoring the word damn?
I don't think so, but that's what it looks like.
It does. I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Damn the fellow, he cried.
Damn the fellow.
Why, Master Clerval, I assume he has outscript us all. Ay, stare if you please, but it is nevertheless true. A youngster who, but a few years ago, believed in Cornelius Agrippa as firmly as the gospel, has now set himself at the head of the university. And if he is not soon pulled down, we shall all be out of countenance. Ay, continued he, observing my face expressive of suffering. Master Frankenstein is modest, an excellent quality in a young man. Young men should be different of themselves. You know, Master Clerval, I was myself when young, but that wears out in a very short time. Master Crimpy had now commenced a eulogy on himself, which happily turned the conversation from a subject that was so annoying to me. Clerval had never sympathized in my taste for natural sciences, and his literary pursuits differed wholly from those which had occupied me. He came to the university with the design of making himself a complete master of the Oriental languages, as thus he should open a field for the plain life he had marked out for himself. Resolved to pursue no inglorious career, he turned his eye toward the east as affording scope for his spirit of enterprise. The Persian, Arabic, and Sanskrit languages engaged his attention, and I was easily induced to enter on the same studies. Idleness had ever been irksome to me, and now I wished to fly from reflection and hated my former studies. I felt great relief in being the fellow pupil with my friend, and found not only instruction but consolation in the works for the Orientalists. I did not, like him, attempt a critical knowledge of their dialects, for I did not contemplate making any other use of them than temporary amusement. I read merely to understand their meaning, and they well repaid my labors. Their melancholy and soothing, and their joy elevating to a degree I will never experience studying the authors of any other country.
Wow. So they're studying like how to speak Chinese and Japanese and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
You know what? That reminds me. I probably don't need to talk all
What's
that
the
much.
lighting look like if I do that? It's getting a little dark in here.
It's okay.
Hold on. Well, I haven't done it yet.
Oh.
Hold on. I'm going to see what the lighting looks like when I do that.
You haven't done on the...
Oh, it makes it pretty bright.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine. It's getting dark in here. I can't
We
see.
can't read the book. We'll have to... When it gets closer to Halloween, like maybe next week or so, we'll do it spookier. Maybe we can have a little like...
Then we'll have to have a flashlight.
Yeah, we'll have to... But that'll be funny. We'll have to have a flashlight, and maybe we should go ahead and take our shots while we're doing it.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is... oh, shoot, now I forgot. Go ahead. Keep reading.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
When you read their writings, life appears to consist in a warm sun and a garden of roses, in the smiles and frowns of a fair enemy, and the fire that consumes your own heart. How different from the manly and heroical poetry of Greece and Rome. Summer passed away in these occupations, and my return to Geneva was fixed for the latter end of autumn. But being delayed by several accidents, winter and snow arrived. The roads were deemed impassable, and my journey was retarded until the ensuing spring. I felt this delay very bitterly, for I longed to see my native town and my beloved friends.
So now he's trying to go home and he can't.
Yep. My return had only been delayed so long from an unwillingness to leave Clerval in a strange place before he had become acquainted with any of its inhabitants. The winter, however, was spent cheerfully, and although the spring was uncommonly late, when it came, its beauty compensated for its dilatoriness.
Yeah, like it's lateness.
Gotcha.
By the way, they looked up the other word for you.
Oh, good.
The other word, encomium, is speech or words of praise.
Oh, good job, Antique Agenda.
Yeah, right?
Nice. The other one is dilatoriness. You knew that one, though.
Yeah, it's like dilly-dallying around. That's where it comes from.
Oh,
like
clever.
Being late.
Dilly-dally. Gotcha. The month of May had already commenced, and I expected the letter daily, which was to fix the date of my departure. When Henry proposed a pedestrian tour on the environs of Ingolstadt, like the environment, the environs of Ingolstadt, that I might bid a personal farewell to the country I had so long inhabited. I acceded with pleasure to this proposition.
So he just wanted him to travel around there
Yeah.
where he was. Yeah.
I was fond of exercise, and Clerval had always been my favorite companion in the rambles of this nature that I had taken among the scenes of my native country. I bet he was.
Yeah. They have a close relationship.
Yeah. They're really close.
Yeah.
Just call it what it is, Victor. We passed a fortnight in these perambulations.
Yeah.
We passed a fortnight in these perambulations.
Don't you know, like back then they called walking around like perambulating or something like that?
No, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
And like because, like ambulatory,
Oh.
yeah. So
Perambulation.
it's a very fancy word.
My health and spirits had long been restored, and they gained additional strength from the salubrious air I breathed, the natural incidents of our progress, and the conversation of my friend. Study had before secluded me from the intercourse of my fellow creatures, and rendered me unsocial. But Clerval called forth the better feelings of my heart.
Oh.
I bet he did.
Clerval's very good for Victor. I
Yeah.
don't know what he would do without Henry.
He again taught me to love the aspect of nature and the cheerful faces of children. Excellent friend, how sincerely you did love me and endeavor to elevate my mind until it was on a level with your own. A selfish pursuit had cramped and narrowed me, until your gentleness and affection warmed and opened my senses. I became the same happy creature who a few years ago, loved and beloved by all, had no sorrow or care. Oh, he's so smitten.
Oh,
he's just
yes.
so lovey talking about Henry. Victor, just go for it. I mean, you haven't seen Elizabeth in like 20 years by now anyway. Just go
It's
for
been
it.
forever. Here, you want me to read?
Am I not doing it good
No,
enough
you're
for
doing
you?
great. I just was
I
going
feel
to
like
take
you're
over.
judging me.
Oh, no. You're doing great.
When happy, inanimate nature had the power of bestowing on me the most delightful sensations, a serene sky and verdant fields filled me with ecstasy. The present season was indeed divine. The flowers of spring bloomed in the hedges, while those of summer were already in bud. I was undisturbed by thoughts which during the preceding year had pressed upon me, notwithstanding my endeavors to throw them off with an invincible burden. Henry rejoiced in my gaiety and sincerely sympathized in my feelings. He exerted himself to amuse me, while he's just like showing off, while he expressed the sensations that filled his soul. The resources of his mind on this occasion were truly astonishing. His conversation was full of imagination, and very often, the imitation of the Persian and Arabic writers, he invented tales of wonderful fancy and passion. At other times, he repeated my favorite poems, or drew me out into arguments, which he supported with great ingenuity. We returned to our college on a Sunday afternoon. The peasants were dancing, and everyone we met appeared gay and happy. My own spirits were high, and I bounded along with feelings of unbridled joy and hilarity.
Wow.
End of chapter. He is doing well right now. Him and Henry are getting together. They love each other. They're like picking out cutlery. They're picking out china together.
No, this is just how bros were in the
I
day.
don't think so. I don't buy it.
They just really love each other.
I know. I agree.
In a bro kind of way.
No, in a loving sort of way.
But yes, I mean, gosh, this has got to end. I bet you with some
To happen.
Yeah, exactly. They're just trying to show the distinction here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I guess Victor just thinks the creature has fallen off the face of the earth.
I guess.
Oh no.
It's not going to go well.
Oh no. No.
Okay, so I guess we're going to stop there.
Okay.
And we're going to cut this off. Those of you who are watching on Facebook, on YouTube, we're really glad that you have been with us live. This has been fun. Mm-hmm. You know, again, we didn't have this scheduled ahead of time, so we were about to record it for today and just decided to go live on the spot, on the spot. We will be exporting this and uploading it to your favorite podcasting site here shortly. So if you're listening elsewhere out there in the world, we would love for you to come over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Typically, we are doing reselling type things. We resell vintage collectibles. We have an awesome show on Friday nights called Flippin and Sippin, which we would love for you to come to as well.
Yes, and the chat is so much fun at that show, and this podcast was their suggestion and idea. We were going to start with a saucy romance book, but we decided to do the Frankenstein instead.
Yeah, we're leading up to Halloween, so we thought that would be fun. Okay, well, I'm going to get up and go to the computer, so I'm going to let you say
You're gonna let me by
goodbye.
myself.
I'm going to let you say goodbye, and then I will end the stream.
Okay. Oh no, she's leaving me. Well, thanks again for joining us, everyone. So next week, another episode. We're getting closer to Halloween. I'm going to try to think of a way to make it spooky. Spookier, right? We'll have to do it at night, Mary Beth. And so like and subscribe if you are watching us on YouTube. We'd love for you to make a comment, correct us on anything that you want, or name the creature. And if you're just listening on podcast, we'd love it if you just give us a review and follow us for the next episode. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. So thanks, everybody, and stay tuned to see what Fatbird finds next. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.